Hi, my name is Payton Warder, and I'm interviewing my father today for my final in Principles of Management. My father has been a manager for over 30 years at various levels, ranging from retail management all the way up to vice president and general manager, with some of the largest telephone and cable companies in America. He is currently a market manager with KLJ Engineering, which is a 600 employee engineering firm based in Bismarck, North Dakota. My parents live in Kentucky now, so I had to do this interview over the phone. This is why the video is over the phone instead of in person. So my first question for you, Dad, is how much time do you spend in meetings? Are there any you don't feel you need to attend?
So my short answer is I go to as few meetings as I possibly can. This is really the biggest time waster for new managers. They easily get pulled into way too many meetings. So one of the first places I go when I look at my weaker managers is their schedule. And oftentimes I see that they're spending so much time in meetings that they really have no time to do their jobs. So again, my answer is any meeting that I don't have a direct role in, that I'm not presenting in, I don't attend.
So as a manager, time management is extremely important, and meetings appear to be one of the easy ways to give up way too much time. So learning to manage your time sounds like it is also a lesson in delegation. If you don't attend meetings, then who does? Or how do you get the information? Would
So,
be my next question.
so again, I attend the meetings that I have deliverables or direct impact in. Otherwise, I delegate the responsibility to someone else whom does have a role, or I remove my team from the meeting completely and just ask for meeting notes. And I can read those at my leisure. I look for things in those notes that I have to know versus things that are nice to know. So, as far as how do I get the information, is if someone on my team attends, I get them to give me notes. Otherwise, I read the meeting minutes, when I'm on a plane or at night when I have free time.
Okay, it is very clear as a manager you are looking for actionable things from meetings instead of just information updates. Seems like a quick way to do this is ask for meeting minutes and seek out the information that pertains to you. This this reminds me of the lesson from our book of decision making. You have to decide where to spend your time for the biggest benefit to yourself and the organization. This leads to my next question of beyond making decisions on which meeting to attend, I imagine there's a lot of planning on your part. How do you plan out your day, your week, or your months?
It's a great question, and I honestly have to give credit to a class that I took a long time ago. It's a Stephen Covey's class on time management, and it was on ranking my tasks by what is most important. I think it was called Sharpening Your Saw, to be honest. So I list out everything that needs to get done, and then I rate them an A, B, or a C, and that really tells me what has to get done today, this week, or even this month. And it might also tell me things that I don't need to worry about. This is really how I often know that a meeting is no longer required for me. If it's rated as a C twice, I just eliminate it and don't go because it brings no value to my schedule. One thing to realize as a manager is there's always things that we refer to as a fire drill. Things just happen that has to get done right away. Could be a customer issue, a mistake, an emergency. You really can't plan for it other than it's going to happen. You just have to be somewhat flexible at all times. If somebody with a deliverable may have a kid in a car accident, God forbid, but the deliverable still needs to get done. Well, who does it? What's the backup plan? That's the other part of planning, is making sure everybody on your team knows what their roles are in the organization, who backs up who, and when it's due, so we can make sure as a team that we get it done.
So, when thinking of planning, you let the most important stuff dictate your days and weeks from a schedule standpoint?
Yes.
So, if I relate the most important stuff to management by objectives, how do you plan for that?
Ooh, now you're getting on the good stuff. I'm currently a fairly high level manager in my organization, so I have to answer this with kind of an example. In my current role, I'm really responsible for providing the vision to my team. Another way of simplifying that is to say I define the what are we going to accomplish part of the goal. I define very clearly what it is we're to accomplish for the year. Since I'm in a sales organization, I hold my direct reports responsible to the how are we going to do it portion of the plan. They'll design the tactical and strategic plan for accomplishing the goal I set forth with an actionable plan traditionally for monthly and weekly activities. This ties them to a schedule and ultimately their direct reports as well. Going one more level down to the direct sales managers, they define the by when portion of the plan. They define what a sales rep is to do daily, weekly, and monthly in order to accomplish the overall goal that I set for the team. Some people look at this as a sales quota, for example.
So if I understand you correctly, a business objective is set by you, then rolled out by your reports and acted upon by those below them. Essentially, it sounds like you're answering the question of what are you going to do, how are you going to do it, and by when. So you set the business objectives, and then your team develops the plans how to accomplish it. I can understand it a little bit more now. Why you don't need to be in the meeting that does not impact you directly. This is all starting to come together for me. Thanks. For my next question, I want to change gears just a little bit and go from planning and deciding to ask about managing people. Let's start with what do you find the most difficult about managing other people?
Boy, I could really go on and on about this one and tell you stories that would make your eyes spin. But I think it's really important for a young student like yourself to understand the difference between management and leadership. I say this because to be a good manager, you need to be a good leader, which means you really need to know when to be which. So my father, your granddad, taught me about a time I was your age, this exact same lesson, and it sticks with me today. I use it almost every day in work. He said to me, Matt, when the back of the tank went down and bullets were flying everywhere outside the tank in Vietnam, a leader would go running out and tell his troops, follow me, whereas a manager would say, go get them. You see, Matt, you have to know when to lead and when to manage. So Payton, I know this is a lesson for school as you earn your entry-level management degree, so let me put these in terms that may make more sense because military and hair salons really aren't the same. Sometimes you need to show an employee what's expected of them, and other times you just need to flat out tell them. Showing is a form of leadership as you are essentially saying do it this way or you're leading them. Telling them is a way of managing them as you are telling them to do something based on expectations you have already set. Does this make sense? Because like I said, Granddad's story sticks with me today and I want to make sure it makes sense to you.
Yes, Dad, this makes perfect sense. I can easily remember the show and tell, but not the show and tell that you do in kindergarten where you bring your teddy bear to school. But I can lead by showing and I can manage by telling. That seems pretty straightforward. Thank you for the example because we read a lot about this in class, but it never really is super clear to me. You made a bunch of reading seem so simple. Okay, so I get manager versus leader now. How do you motivate your employees?
Another good question. Thank your teacher for these good ones. So I learned this as I worked my way up the ranks in sales leadership. It really started with building trust with my staff. By trust, I meant they needed to know that I truly stood with them and had their backs. I'd roll my sleeves up no matter what. Even if they messed up, I would never make them look silly in front of a client. I'd fully support them, including working through how to solve a problem if needed. I also earned their trust because I made it a point to understand why each of them came to work every day. Yes, we all have bills to pay, but really deep down inside, I wanted to know, why are you here? And why today? I wanted to know if they wanted the money and commission and bonuses drove them, or they wanted a family vacation, or they wanted to sell a lot because they wanted to be the top salesperson. Everybody look at me. Meaning they were driven by public recognition. Two small examples, but you really need to know what motivates each person because not everyone's the same. I cannot think of any example where I ran a contest that everyone loved it because each had different motivators. Well, actually, I take that back. I ran a blackjack contest one month with my HR approval that if any sales rep had monthly quota in by the 21st of the month, 21st meaning blackjack, 21, They could take any day off between then and the end of the month for free. They didn't have to take PTO. That really meant an extra day off for getting quota in early. I win by getting quota in early. They win because they got a free day off. What that really taught me as a young manager is I found out quickly that time with family and friends was a huge motivator, because 8 of my 12 sales reps at the time took advantage of the contest.
In our classroom, stress was a very important part by teaching us stress, how important employees' trust was, and I found it very interesting that the very first thing you brought up was also about trust. I know I have read in a meme online somewhere that the number one reason people leave a job is due to poor management. That never made any sense to me until now. I'm starting to understand that a manager can help an employee's expectations by actually building trust and motivating them to succeed. If a manager only tells an employee what to do all the time with no trust or relationship with the employee, is there more apt to leave? The book also referred to the positive reinforcement method, which your example on understanding what motivates your employees seems to match. Okay, Dad, this is making sense, but what about managing change? I remember you being really stressed when we moved to Nashville, and you had a brand new team, and your company was changing names. How did you handle managing change?
Okay, this one can be a really long answer, but I know that this is an interview for class, so I'm going to do everything I can to try to keep it short. The short answer is I freaked out. Okay, just kidding. In reality, I put into action a lot of what we already talked about. I went into the office, I met with every single employee individually, I listened to their concerns, and I wrote down those that seemed to be on everyone's minds. I addressed each individual's concerns in those meetings with hopes of initiating some small level of trust. I then met with the team as a whole, again addressing the most frequent concerns brought up, and addressed them as a group to put everyone at ease. The name change was delayed a year, so I had a huge meeting at the football stadium where the Titans play with over 100 attendees, and I really had to tell them, hey, sorry, we're not going to be announcing the new name today after all. That was extremely stressful, but the team understood and rallied behind me as they knew it was not easy for me, just like this change was not easy for them. It's 100% human nature to resist change. Because with change, there's unknown, and with unknown, there's fear. So to get beyond fear, you really need to find someone or something you can trust. As a manager, you need to help an individual determine what they can trust and what the path through this change looks like. That is when you reach the next level of management, as you have to lead through change as opposed to just managing. A whole lot of follow me needs to happen during change.
Okay, Dad, I know we have gone through this a few times. I get the questions down, but this is another great example back to Granddad's story. This is extremely helpful in making me understand leading versus managing, as I can clearly see that telling an employee to change just because you said so might not be the best plan. One of the school theories we learned was the Lewine's 3-step model for changing would be helpful here as well. I will not go through that with you here and now, but as I listened to your response, it took me back to the lesson, the 3rd step of refreezing, because you talk about how you ask your clients about oh God, I think I messed it up again.
That's all right. I can edit it out. Keep going. You have to summarize this somehow.
Okay. Okay, the 3rd step of refreezing. Thank you so much, Dad, for letting me interview you about all these managing skills. I've learned so much by all your examples and all your experience that you have by this. So thank you for your time, and I've learned lots from you.
No problem, honey. Best of luck, and I know your professor is going to listen to this. I would love to be interviewed by other students in the future if needed. Biggest thing I can tell you and new managers is don't be afraid to mess up. I've made many mistakes, and the way that we get better and stronger is not necessarily being afraid to make a mistake, but learning how to recover from mistakes that were made. So I think this is a great exercise for you and for the other students in your class, and congratulations. I can't wait to see you Wednesday when you graduate.
Thank you.